Emma was 17 and dying from cancer. Her bald head was covered by a pink hat. Mean neighbor Margaret hated seeing sick people in their nice neighborhood. Cancer patients should get the death penalty. Margaret screamed in court. She didn't know the judge was Emma's mother. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Emma was very sick. She had cancer and was only 17 years old. The medicine made all her hair fall out. She was very weak and needed help to walk. Her face was thin and pale. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. She wore a pink hat to cover her bald head. We lived in our old house for many years. But after Emma got cancer, everything there reminded us of sad times. Every corner had memories of when Emma was healthy and strong. She used to run and play soccer. She wanted to become a doctor who helps animals. But cancer changed everything. "Mom, I want to move somewhere new," Emma said one day. "Maybe if we live in a different place I can feel normal again." Her voice was very quiet. The cancer medicine made her throat hurt when she talked. She could only whisper most of the time. We decided to move to Meadowbrook Estates. It was a nice neighborhood with pretty houses and quiet streets. The houses all looked similar with perfect lawns and clean sidewalks. We thought it would be a peaceful place for Emma to get better. Our new house was white with blue shutters. It had a big window where Emma could sit and watch birds. We bought special medical equipment for Emma's room. There was a machine that helped her breathe. Another machine gave her medicine through a tube in her arm. Nurses came every day to check on her. "This will be our fresh start," I told Emma as we unpacked boxes. "You can rest here and get strong again." Emma smiled weakly. It was the first time I had seen her smile in weeks. But our peace did not last long. The very first morning in our new house, the doorbell rang. It was very early, only 7 o'clock. Emma was still sleeping in her special hospital bed. I opened the door and saw a woman with perfect blonde hair. She wore expensive clothes and too much makeup. Her smile looked fake, like she was pretending to be nice. "Hello, I am Margaret Silverton," she said. "I am the president of the Homeowners Association. Welcome to Meadowbrook Estates." She handed me a thick envelope full of papers. "These are all the rules for living in our neighborhood. You must follow every single rule. No exceptions." Margaret looked past me into our house. She saw Emma's medical equipment through the doorway. Her fake smile disappeared. "Oh," she said, her voice becoming cold. "I was not told that you had medical issues." "This is my daughter Emma," I said. "She is recovering from cancer treatment." Margaret's eyes became narrow and mean. "Cancer? In our neighborhood? Emma is getting better. The doctors say she is responding well to treatment." "Where is her medical equipment?" Margaret asked, pushing past me to look inside. I tried to block her, but she was already staring at Emma's room. She could see the oxygen machine, the 4-stand, and the special bed. "This is completely unacceptable," Margaret said loudly. "This neighborhood is not zoned for medical facilities. This is not a medical facility. This is our home. Emma lives here." "No, no, no," Margaret shook her head hard. "Sick people cannot live in residential areas. You need special permits for medical equipment. This violates at least 12 HOA regulations." Emma woke up from all the noise. She appeared in the hallway, holding onto the wall to stay standing. Her pink hat was crooked and her pajamas were too big because she had lost so much weight. "Mom? What is happening?" Emma's voice was very scared. Margaret stared at Emma like she was looking at something disgusting. "Oh my God. She looks terrible. Is she contagious?" "Cancer is not contagious," I said, getting angry. "Emma cannot make other people sick." "That is what you say. But I have done research. Cancer patients leak toxic chemicals from their treatments. They contaminate everything they touch." This was completely wrong. Cancer patients do not contaminate anything. But Margaret said it like it was true. "Mrs. Silverton, I think you should leave now." "I will leave, but this conversation is not over. You cannot turn our beautiful neighborhood into a cancer ward." She stormed out, her high heels clicking loudly on our driveway. Emma started crying. "Mom, she hates me already. We just moved here." "Do not worry about her, sweetheart. She is just one mean person. Most people are kind." But I was wrong. Margaret Silverton was just getting started. The next morning, a medical truck came to deliver Emma's oxygen tanks. It was a small, quiet truck that only stayed for 10 minutes. But Margaret was watching from her window across the street. She came running out of her house like the truck was on fire. "Excuse me," she yelled at the delivery man. "You cannot park that thing here. This is a residential street." The delivery man looked confused. "Ma'am, I am just bringing medical supplies to the Thompson family." I do not care what you are bringing. Medical trucks are not allowed in this neighborhood. You are violating our HOA covenants. But the young lady needs these oxygen tanks to breathe. Then she should live somewhere else. Somewhere designed for sick people. Emma was watching from the window. She saw Margaret yelling at the nice delivery man who always brought her medicine. Emma started crying again. Mom, maybe we should move again. I do not want to cause problems. Emma, you are not causing problems. You are just trying to get better. But Margaret's attacks got worse every day. She complained about the nurses who came to check on Emma. These medical workers are tracking germs through our neighborhood, she told everyone. She complained about Emma's oxygen machine. That machine makes noise all night. It is disturbing our peace. She complained about everything. When Emma sat by the window, Margaret said she was disturbing the neighborhood aesthetic. When Emma went outside for fresh air, Margaret said she was contaminating the common areas. Emma tried very hard to make Margaret happy. She asked the nurses to park far away from Margaret's house. She turned down her oxygen machine at night. She stayed inside most of the time so Margaret would not see her. Maybe if I am very quiet and very small, she will stop being angry, Emma said. But nothing worked. Margaret's anger only grew stronger. 3 weeks after we moved in, Margaret organized a neighborhood meeting. She called it Community Health and Safety Discussion. She invited every family on our street. We need to talk about the medical situation on Maple Street, Margaret announced to everyone. Emma wanted to go to the meeting. Maybe if I explain to everyone that I am not dangerous, they will understand. Emma, you do not owe anyone an explanation. You have the right to live here. Please, Mom. I want them to see that I am just a normal teenager who got sick. Against my better judgment, I helped Emma get ready for the meeting. She was having a bad day and needed her wheelchair. She wore her favorite pink hat and tried to put on makeup to look healthier. The community center was full of neighbors. Margaret stood at the front like she was a teacher giving a lesson. She had prepared a presentation with charts and pictures. Ladies and gentlemen, Margaret began, our neighborhood faces a serious health crisis. She clicked a button and showed a picture of our house on a big screen. Emma was visible in the photo, connected to her 4 machine on our front porch. This is what cancer looks like in a residential community, Margaret announced. Medical waste, dangerous chemicals, disease contamination. Emma sank down in her wheelchair. She had not known Margaret was taking pictures of her. The Thompson family moved here knowing their daughter was diseased. They chose to contaminate our neighborhood instead of living in an appropriate medical facility. That is not true, I said loudly. Emma was cancer-free when we moved here. The treatments are just preventative. Once you have cancer, you always have cancer, Margaret replied. The medical books say cancer spreads through genetic material and environmental factors. This was a lie, but Margaret said it with such confidence that people believed her. She showed more slides with fake charts and false information. Property values drop 40% when cancer patients move into neighborhoods. Our homes are losing money because of one sick family. Emma raised her shaking hand. May I please speak? Margaret looked annoyed but nodded. Emma tried to stand up from her wheelchair but she was too weak. She spoke from her chair, her voice very soft. My name is Emma Thompson. I am 17 years old. 2 years ago, I was a healthy girl who played soccer and wanted to help animals. Then I got cancer. The room became quiet as people really looked at Emma for the first time. I did not choose to get cancer. It just happened to me. I have been fighting this disease for 2 years. I have had surgeries and chemotherapy. I lost my hair and my strength. Sometimes I lost hope. Emma's voice got a little stronger. But I never lost my kindness. I never hurt anyone. I am not dangerous or contagious. Some neighbors looked sad listening to Emma. Mrs. Chin from down the street had tears in her eyes. The medical equipment Mrs. Silverton complains about keeps me alive. The nurses who visit help me take my medicine. The oxygen machine helps me breathe when my lungs are weak from treatment. Emma looked directly at Margaret. I just want to live quietly and get better. I have tried very hard to be a good neighbor. That is exactly the problem. Margaret interrupted loudly. This neighborhood is not equipped for life support systems. You belong in a hospital, not in a house next to healthy families. Emma looked like Margaret had hit her. Mrs. Silverton, said Mr. Davis from across the street, Emma seems like a sweet girl. Surely we can. Can what? Margaret's voice became very loud and angry. Can we risk our children's health for one sick girl? Can we destroy our property values for one diseased family? She clicked to her next slide. It showed fake medical information claiming that living near cancer patients increased cancer risk in healthy people. Studies prove that cancer patients are dangerous to healthy communities. Living within 2 blocks of active cancer cases increases your cancer risk by 50%. This was completely false, but it scared everyone in the room. Furthermore, Margaret continued, cancer patients require constant emergency medical care. Our streets are blocked by ambulances. Our children are traumatized by seeing dying people in their neighborhood. Emma started crying quietly. The cruel words hurt more than her cancer treatments. Mrs. Silverton, I said, standing up, you are spreading dangerous lies about cancer. I am protecting our community, she screamed back. Your daughter is a walking health hazard. Cancer patients leak toxic chemicals from their chemotherapy. They poison the soil and water. More lies, but people in the room started nodding in agreement. In civilized societies, Margaret announced, we have special places for diseased people. Forcing healthy families to live near cancer patients is selfish and dangerous. Emma tried to speak again, but Margaret talked over her. I propose immediate action. The Thompson family has 30 days to move their sick daughter to an appropriate medical facility. If they refuse, we will take legal action to protect our community health. You cannot force a family to move because their child has cancer, protested Mrs. Patterson. Watch me, Margaret replied with a mean smile. I have talked to lawyers. Community health comes before individual accommodation. We have legal grounds to remove health hazards from residential areas. Margaret called for a vote. The neighbors had to decide if Emma could stay in the neighborhood or if she had to leave. 28 people voted that Emma had to leave. Only 12 people voted that she could stay. Emma broke down completely. She cried so hard her whole body shook. Most neighbors left quickly, not looking at Emma as they walked past her wheelchair. I just want to get better, Emma sobbed. Why do they hate me for being sick? That night was the worst since Emma's cancer diagnosis. The stress made her very sick. Her fever went up and she could not stop throwing up. We had to take her to the emergency room. Mom, Emma whispered from her hospital bed, maybe Mrs. Silverton is right. Maybe I am a burden. Maybe sick people like me do not belong in normal neighborhoods. Emma Thompson, do not let that woman make you feel ashamed for fighting cancer. But what if she is right about the health risks? What if I really am dangerous to other families? Sweetheart, cancer is not contagious. Mrs. Silverton is lying to hurt you. Then why did everyone vote against me? If I am not dangerous, why do they want me to leave? I had no good answer for that question. Margaret made her attacks even worse over the next few weeks. She organized health patrols to watch our house. She took pictures every time a medical worker came to help Emma. She started an online petition demanding cancer-free neighborhood status. She filed complaints with the city about medical waste contamination. She called the fire department claiming Emma's oxygen tanks were explosive hazards. She reported our family to Child Protective Services saying we were endangering a minor by keeping her in an unsafe environment. Every single complaint was investigated and found to be false. But each investigation was stressful and scary for Emma. Emma's health got worse under all the pressure. Her white blood cell count dropped dangerously low. She stopped eating and lost more weight. She was afraid to go outside because Margaret might see her and start yelling. I want to stop my cancer treatment, Emma told me one morning. I cannot fight cancer and Mrs. Silverton at the same time. It is too hard. That was the moment I knew Margaret Silverton had gone too far. She was not just being mean anymore. She was literally threatening my daughter's life with her harassment. I am going to fight cancer to get better, Emma continued, but I cannot fight mean people too. I'm too tired. Maybe I should just give up. My heart broke hearing Emma talk about giving up. She had been so brave for 2 years. She had never quit fighting even when the treatments made her very sick. But Margaret's cruelty was breaking Emma's spirit in a way cancer never could. That night I made a decision. Margaret Silverton wanted a legal fight, and she was about to get one. But she had no idea who she was really fighting. Margaret did not know that I was not just Emma's mother. I was also federal judge Sarah Mitchell. I kept my work life and family life completely separate. At home I used my old name Thompson. At work I was Judge Mitchell. Margaret was about to learn that terrorizing a federal judge's daughter had consequences she never imagined. I told my court clerk to watch for any new lawsuits filed in our area. When Margaret and the HOA filed their legal case to force Emma to leave, I knew it would come to the federal courthouse because it involved civil rights issues. The lawsuit was filed on Wednesday. By Friday, the court's computer system had randomly assigned the case to my courtroom. Margaret had sued my dying daughter in my own court, and she had no idea what was coming. Margaret's legal papers were full of lies. She claimed Emma was a public health emergency. She asked the court to force Emma to move to a medical isolation facility. She wanted a judge to legally exile my daughter because she had cancer. The hearing was scheduled for Tuesday morning. Margaret thought she would win easily. She had no idea she was about to face the one person who would never let her hurt Emma. The weekend before court, Emma was too sick to get out of bed. The stress had made her immune system very weak. Her doctor was thinking about putting her back in the hospital. "Mom," Emma whispered Sunday night, "what if the judge agrees with Mrs. Silverton? What if they make us leave?" "That will never happen, sweetheart." "But what if it does? What if she is right that cancer patients do not belong in normal neighborhoods?" I sat on Emma's bed and held her thin hand. "Emma, you belong anywhere you want to be. Tomorrow the truth will come out. Mrs. Silverton will learn that her hatred has consequences." "What do you mean?" "You will see tomorrow." Tuesday morning was cold and gray. I got ready for the most difficult day of my career as a judge. I would have to watch my daughter be attacked in my courtroom before I could reveal the truth and protect her. But Margaret Silverton had pushed too far. She had terrorized a cancer patient. She had spread medical lies. She was asking a federal court to exile a sick teenager. She was about to discover that sometimes karma wears a judge's robe. The courtroom was very quiet when I walked in wearing my black judge robes. I sat behind the big wooden desk where judges sit. I had been a federal judge for 23 years, but I had never faced anything like this. Case number 2024 CV 9156, Meadowbrook HOA versus Thompson family, my clerk announced. My heart started beating very fast. I watched Emma come into the courtroom in her wheelchair. She had an oxygen tube in her nose and wore her pink hat over her bald head. She looked so sick and scared. My husband David sat beside Emma, looking very worried and tired. They had no idea I was the judge for this case. Margaret walked in wearing a black dress like she was going to a funeral. She looked very happy and confident. She whispered to her lawyer and pointed at Emma like Emma was evidence of a crime. "Your Honor," Margaret's lawyer began, "we ask the court to remove a public health danger from our residential community." I nodded like a normal judge would, even though my heart was breaking watching Emma. But Margaret could not stay quiet. She jumped up from her chair and started talking loudly. "Your Honor, I demand immediate action. That family has turned our beautiful neighborhood into a cancer hospital." Everyone in the courtroom gasped. Emma put her head down in shame. "Mrs. Silverton," I said carefully, "please let your lawyer speak for you." "No." Margaret yelled even louder. "I have watched that diseased girl contaminate our community for months. Cancer patients spread toxic chemicals. They leak genetic material that causes cancer in healthy people. They are walking biological weapons." Every word was medically false and personally cruel. Emma started crying silently, her thin shoulders shaking. "Mrs. Silverton, you must control yourself or I will hold you in contempt of court," I warned. But Margaret was too angry to stop. Months of hatred had built up to this moment. Control myself? That cancer-infected creature is poisoning our children. Cancer patients should not be allowed in residential areas. They belong locked away in medical isolation facilities where they cannot hurt normal people. Emma covered her face with her hands and cried harder. "Look at that thing." Margaret pointed directly at Emma. "Bald, sick, dying. Spreading disease through our neighborhood. Traumatizing healthy children. If I were a judge, I would sentence that diseased creature to death. Give her the death penalty and protect innocent people." The entire courtroom became completely silent. Even Margaret's own lawyer looked shocked and horrified. I stood up very slowly. My hands were shaking with anger. 23 years of being a judge fought with 17 years of being Emma's mother. "Mrs. Silverton," I said in a very quiet, dangerous voice, "did you just demand the death penalty for my daughter?" Margaret looked confused. "Your daughter? What are you talking about?" "Emma Thompson is my daughter," I announced, taking off my judge mask for the first time in my career. "I am Federal Judge Sarah Mitchell. I use my maiden name Thompson at home. And you just demanded the death penalty for my child who is fighting for her life against cancer, in my courtroom." All the color drained from Margaret's face. Her lawyer immediately sat down, knowing they had lost the case. David's mouth fell open in complete shock. But Emma looked up at me with tears streaming down her face, and I saw something heartbreaking. She looked ashamed that I had to hear those horrible words about her. "Mom?" Emma whispered. "You heard everything she said about me?" My heart completely shattered. In that moment I was not a federal judge. I was just a mother watching her sick child's spirit break under cruel words. Emma, honey, nothing she said is true. You are perfect exactly as you are. Margaret found her voice again, panic making her say stupid things. You cannot judge this case. You are biased. This is not fair. Mrs. Silverton, I said, my judge training taking over, you are absolutely right. I cannot judge this case because Emma is my daughter. Another judge will handle this case. But before I leave, I want everyone in this courtroom to understand something. I looked directly at Margaret, letting her see all my power and authority as a federal judge. I have been a federal judge for 23 years. I have seen murderers, terrorists, and human traffickers. I have sentenced the worst criminals in our society. But I have never encountered someone as evil as you, Mrs. Silverton. You looked at a 17-year-old girl fighting for her life against cancer, and you decided she deserved to die. Margaret tried to interrupt, but I continued. Emma Thompson, my daughter, has spent 2 years battling cancer with more courage than most adults will ever have. She has survived surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and countless medical procedures. She has never complained, never given up, never lost her kindness even while facing death at an age when most teenagers worry about homework and friends. Emma was crying, but now they were different tears. I could see pride mixed with her pain. Emma volunteers at the Children's Cancer Ward, reading stories to younger patients who are scared and alone. She helps raise money for cancer research. She tutors kids who have missed school because of illness. She faces every day knowing her cancer might come back, but she chooses to help others instead of feeling sorry for herself. I turned back to Margaret, letting my anger show. And you looked at this brave, dying teenager and saw a threat to your property values. You terrorized a cancer patient for months. You spread medical lies that could get other sick people killed. You organized your neighbors to vote against a child because she dared to fight cancer in your neighborhood. The courtroom was completely silent except for Emma's quiet crying. Mrs. Silverton, you demanded the death penalty for a teenager whose only crime was getting sick. The only diseased thing in this courtroom is your soul. I am removing myself from this case and giving it to Judge Williams, I announced. But Mrs. Silverton, let me give you some free legal advice. Discriminating against cancer patients violates federal disability laws. Your statements today are hate speech against a protected class. The Department of Justice will be very interested in your public demand for the death penalty for cancer patients. I hit my wooden hammer once, officially ending my part in the case. I took off my judge robes. I was no longer Judge Mitchell. I was just Emma's mom. I walked down from the judge's desk and knelt beside Emma's wheelchair. She fell into my arms, sobbing like her heart was broken. I am so sorry, baby, I whispered. I am so sorry you had to hear those terrible, horrible things. Mom, Emma cried, is she right? Am I really dangerous to healthy people? Am I contaminating the neighborhood just by existing? No, sweetheart. Cancer is not contagious. You are not dangerous to anyone. She is just a cruel woman who chose to hate you for being sick. David joined our hug, tears streaming down his face. Emma, you are our hero. You have fought so hard to beat this disease. Do not let her hatred undo all your amazing progress. Margaret stood frozen in the courtroom, finally understanding the enormous mistake she had made. She had attacked a federal judge's cancer-stricken daughter in federal court, using language that was illegal hate speech and disability discrimination. Emma wheeled herself around to face Margaret directly. Despite her tears, my daughter's voice was steady and strong. Mrs. Silverton, I never chose to get cancer. 2 years ago, I was a healthy, happy teenager who loved soccer and wanted to be a veterinarian. Cancer chose me, not the other way around. Margaret opened her mouth to say something, but Emma was not finished talking. For 2 years I have fought this disease with everything I have. I have been cut open in surgery. I have been poisoned with chemotherapy that made me vomit for days. I have been burned with radiation that left scars on my skin. I lost my hair, my energy, my childhood, and sometimes my hope. But I never lost my humanity. Emma's voice grew stronger with each word. I moved to your neighborhood hoping for peace during my recovery. I tried to be invisible so I would not bother anyone. I apologized for being sick. I made myself smaller and quieter, hoping you would stop hating me for having cancer. Tears were flowing down Margaret's face now. But today you showed me that some people's hatred is so deep and so evil that they want sick children to die rather than exist in their sight. You looked at a cancer patient, a dying teenager, and decided she deserved the death penalty. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear people breathing. Mrs. Silverton, I forgive you, Emma said quietly. Not because you deserve forgiveness, but because I refuse to let cancer and hatred destroy my heart the same way they tried to destroy my body. Margaret broke down completely then. Her sobs echoed through the courtroom as her lawyer helped her leave. After everyone left, Emma, David, and I sat alone in the empty courtroom for a long time. "Mom," Emma finally said, "thank you for protecting me today. But I need you to know something important." "What is that, honey?" "I'm not ashamed of having cancer anymore. Mrs. Silverton tried to make me feel like I do not deserve to exist, but she was wrong. I do deserve to exist. I deserve to live and fight and hope, just like every other person." I looked at my daughter and realized that Margaret Silverton had accidentally given Emma something precious, the absolute knowledge of her own worth. "You are absolutely right," I said. "You are extraordinary, Emma." Emma smiled through her tears. "Well, having a federal judge for a mom definitely helps when fighting crazy HOA ladies." We all laughed together for the first time in many weeks. 6 months later, Emma's cancer was still gone. The doctors said she was officially in remission. Margaret Silverton was arrested and faced federal civil rights charges for discriminating against a disabled person. She was also removed from the HOA board and had to pay large fines. Our neighborhood got new leaders who started a community support program for families dealing with medical challenges. They organized meal deliveries, transportation help, and emotional support for anyone facing serious illness. But the most important change was in Emma herself. She had found her voice, her strength, and her unshakable knowledge of her own value. She would never again apologize for fighting to live. Margaret Silverton thought she was giving Emma a death sentence that day. Instead, she witnessed the birth of a survivor who would spend the rest of her life helping other people facing the same battles she had won. Emma started a support group for teenage cancer patients. She gave speeches at hospitals about staying strong during treatment. She raised thousands of dollars for cancer research. She turned her pain into purpose and her suffering into strength. And every time someone tried to make another sick person feel ashamed or unwanted, Emma was there to remind them that every life has value, every person deserves dignity, and love is always stronger than hate.